Picture this. You're one of the most respected bishops in America. You've got a 17,000-member megachurch. You're preaching to celebrities. You're Grace Jones's brother. You're living in a hilltop mansion in Malibu. And then you make one decision that changes everything. One decision that has your best friend, Bishop T.D. Jakes himself, publicly calling your show junk TV. One decision that has preachers across the country cursing you out. One decision that puts your entire legacy on the line. Bishop Noel Jones took that gamble when he joined Preachers of L.A. in 2013. And today, he regrets it. But not for the reasons you think. This is the story of what really happened behind the scenes, the backlash, the betrayal, and the truth that never made it to your TV screen. Let's rewind to 2013. Bishop Noel Jones is sitting on top of the world. He's Jamaican-born, charismatic, intellectually sharp, the kind of preacher who can fill a room just by walking into it. His church, City of Refuge in Gardena, California, isn't just any church. It's a celebrity hotspot. The Game got baptized there. Lisa Ray was rumored to have dated him. And Oxygen Network comes knocking with an offer, a reality show. Preachers of L.A. 6 prominent pastors, cameras following their every move, their wealth, their struggles, their humanity. Most pastors would have said no immediately. Jones said yes. But here's what's wild. He knew exactly what he was getting into. He wasn't naive. He wasn't being tricked. He told his best friend T.D. Jakes about it beforehand. Well, sort of. Actually, he didn't call Jakes first. And when Jakes heard about it through the grapevine, he swallowed his tongue. That's Jones's own words. His best friend literally swallowed his tongue in shock. But Jones had a mission, a purpose, something he'd been thinking about for years. He wanted to knock preachers off their pedestals. See, in his mind there was this massive problem in the black church. People were treating pastors like they were God himself, putting them on these impossibly high pedestals. And then, inevitably, getting furious when those same pastors turned out to be human, flawed, imperfect, regular. Jones thought reality TV could fix that. I have always wanted to reduce the iconoclastic dispositions that church people have towards their leaders, he said in an interview. The problem is, you put men on pedestals they can't live on, and at the end of the day, we turn around and slaughter them when nobody is perfect but Jesus Christ. Noble, right? Here's the thing, though. Jones was very clear about what the show was not supposed to be. This wasn't an evangelical crusade. This wasn't about winning souls for Christ. This wasn't about preaching the gospel to the masses. My original intention was not for this to be an evangelical tool. Very certainly not, he said explicitly. It was about showing Christians that their pastors are human. Period. He called a couple of his preacher friends to get their opinions. Some said yes, some said no. But Jones made his choice. He was going in. And he knew the risks. It's going to be controversial. There's no question about it, he admitted before the show even aired. What he didn't know? Just how bad it would get. October 9th, 2013. Preachers of L.A. premieres on Oxygen. And the internet explodes. The show pulls in 1.2 million viewers for the premiere, the second highest rated series premiere in Oxygen's history. It's trending on Twitter. It's the number 2 most social cable reality program in prime time. But it's not praise they're getting. It's outrage. Because here's what people saw on their screens. Bishop Noel Jones living in a hilltop mansion with views of the Pacific Ocean. Malibu at his feet. A Porsche in the driveway. A home across the street from where Lakers owner Jerry Buss used to live. And that's just Jones. The other preachers. Bishop Clarence McClendon had a $7 million home, the most expensive of the bunch. They showed fancy cars, designer suits, private jets, the whole prosperity gospel lifestyle on full display. But the real controversy? The messy personal lives. Minister Dietrich Haddon was living with his girlfriend Dominique and their baby, not married, on national TV, as a minister of the gospel. And Bishop Noel Jones. His situation was even more complicated. For over 15 years, he'd been in a relationship with a woman named Loretta. They shared a business. They shared a dog. They did everything together. But they weren't married. On the show, Bishop Ron Gibson, another cast member, straight up confronted Jones about it. "I question his relationship because it's public," Gibson said. "If it were private, I wouldn't be that concerned." Gibson's wife Lavette chimed in, saying it was important to show a level of maturity as a spiritual leader. Jones defended himself, insisting there was no sexual relationship, that they were just compatible, that he had a right to be single. But the optics? Terrible. Here you have a bishop who's supposed to be preaching holiness, living what looked like a married life without the marriage. The Christian community was not having it. And then there were the egos. In one episode, Bishops Jones and Gibson literally got into an argument about who had the greater capacity to give back to the community. Two men of God on national television, essentially bragging about their wealth and charity. Minister Dietrich Haddon had to step in and say, "You don't sound like preachers right now." And he was absolutely right. This wasn't what Jones had envisioned. He'd wanted to show humanity. Flaws. The real side of ministry. Instead, the show was turning into a circus of wealth, relationship drama, and ego battles. But the worst was yet to come. The backlash from his own community was about to hit like a tidal wave. Sunday morning, October 2013. Bishop T.D. Jakes steps up to his pulpit at the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas. His congregation is ready to hear the word. But Jakes has something else on his mind. He's about to publicly drag preachers of L.A., and by extension, his best friend. "Now, I know you've been watching that junk on TV," Jakes announces to his congregation. "I want to tell you right now, not one dime of what you're sowing right now will buy my suit. I want you to know my car is paid for. I want you to know I got my house on my own. I want you to know I'm not bling-blinging. I am not shake and bake. I had money when I came to Dallas, and I plan to have some when I leave." He keeps going. "You did not buy what I got. I had it when I came here. You know, I had it when I came here. The devil is a lie. I have sold enough books and produced enough movies. I don't need your offering to pay for this little slimy suit, so I rebuke that spirit in the name of Jesus Christ." And just in case anyone missed who he was talking about, Jakes made it crystal clear, "I'm not from L.A., I'm from Dallas." Boom. Imagine being Bishop Noel Jones in that moment. Your best friend, the person you trust most in ministry, publicly calling your show junk TV from his pulpit. Jones later admitted that it hurt. "I expected the controversy, but I did not expect anyone to say anything without calling me first and kicking my behind," he said. That word "first" is important. Jakes didn't call him, didn't text him, didn't give him a heads up, just went straight to the pulpit and let it rip. But Jones, to his credit, didn't fire back publicly. He took the high road. "As far as his open comment, I didn't do the show to make enemies of my friends," Jones said in an interview. "Everybody is entitled to their opinions and their conceptualization of how they are to operate in their space as it relates to the people who look up to them. I'm not going to play ping-pong to any of my friends' comments because they are entitled to their opinions, and I still love him in spite of." Classy response. But privately, it stung. Jones admitted that when Jakes first heard he was doing the show, he swallowed his tongue because he didn't expect me to do it, because he knows and he's very protective of me, and he thought that I was putting myself too far out there to the point where he couldn't protect me. And T.D. Jakes wasn't the only one coming for him. Jones revealed that several other preachers called him up and straight up cursed him out about his participation in the show. Multiple preachers calling him, cursing him out. These were supposed to be his peers, his colleagues in ministry, and they were calling him on the phone to tell him exactly what they thought about his decision to do reality TV. The Tom Joyner Morning Show had him on, and co-host Zibble Wilkes called the show disturbing. You have a lot of great fancy words, but what you see in this is men of God who are preaching the word, who are now seen as just regular guys, but it is in such a disturbing way, she told him. Jones pushed back. It is not disturbing. Who in the world, who has been going to church, especially in our culture from slavery to now, has ever thought that the preacher was God? But Wilkes wasn't backing down. So, you all allowed yourselves to be put on pedestals, and now you allow this TV show to knock you down. The narrative had completely flipped on him. What Jones intended as a humanizing mission had become, in the eyes of many, a degrading spectacle, a cash grab, a ratings ploy that made a mockery of the ministry. Petitions were launched to get the show cancelled. The Christian community was in an uproar. Social media was brutal. And through it all, Jones kept defending his decision, kept explaining his intentions, kept trying to make people understand. But there was one problem he couldn't defend against, the one thing that would become his biggest regret. As the show wrapped its first season, Bishop Noel Jones did an interview, and for the first time he admitted something crucial. He had regrets, but not about doing the show, about what the show became. My only regret about having done the show is I don't control all the content that's been put out there, he said. My only regret is that I don't control whatever they present to the public. And then he dropped the bomb. If I had more control, I wouldn't leave anything out. I would add some things. What things? I would add some things such as giving to millions of people around the world, giving scholarships to young ladies in South Africa, giving to orphanages in Ghana, giving to a whole city I have adopted in Jamaica, feeding thousands of people and giving gifts to thousands of people for Christmas and Thanksgiving, showing how I feed and clothe people on a weekly basis in LA, thousands and thousands of people, showing the part of ministry that nobody seems to care about. Let that sink in. Bishop Noel Jones has orphanages in Ghana. He's given scholarships to young women in South Africa. He's adopted an entire city in Jamaica. He feeds thousands of people in Los Angeles on a weekly basis. None of that made it onto the show. The cameras caught the Porsche, the Malibu mansion, the relationship drama with Loretta, the ego battles with other bishops, but they didn't catch him crying when he visited Ghana and walked through the door of no return, that historic site where enslaved Africans took their last steps on African soil. They didn't catch him breaking down when he saw the poverty in Jamaica, his homeland, overwhelmed with emotion about the condition of the people and the young kids there. They didn't show his actual ministry, his actual impact, the actual reason he has the resources he has. The producers wanted flash, drama, controversy, ratings. And that's what they got, but in the process they completely missed the story Jones wanted to tell. Unless we partner with people who are dealing with Socratic problems in our community, then we are really not having church, Jones said in a separate interview, talking about his actual ministry philosophy. You can have church and never minister. This is a man who understands that real ministry isn't about pulpit performance. It's about tangible impact on people's lives. But the reality show editors? They weren't interested in that narrative. They wanted the prosperity gospel spectacle, the wealth porn, the messy relationships, And Jones couldn't do anything about it because he signed away editorial control. That's the regret, not that he did the show, but that he trusted reality TV producers to tell his story accurately. Because of this lack of control, Jones said a second season was up in the air for him. He'd learned his lesson. So what happened next? Well, the show did get a second season. And the controversies continued. The Loretta situation became even more dramatic when, on the after show, she revealed something shocking to Jones that he'd never heard before. When asked if she'd want to live with him in a marital environment, Loretta said, "To be honest, my perspective of marriage has changed from the time I met him until where we are now. I'm happy with the way things are now, but if he proposed to me, I would accept." Jones was visibly shaken. Anytime you hear something that you never heard before in that light, it calls for some introspective meditation, he said. Eventually, years later in 2022, Jones did propose to Loretta. After all that drama, all that controversy, all those years of public scrutiny, they finally got married. But the damage to his reputation from the show? That lingered. Jones even revealed that the stress from the show and the backlash worsened his heart health issues. The criticism, the phone calls from angry preachers, the public judgment. It all took a physical toll, and yet, if you ask Jones today, he'd probably tell you the same thing he told interviewers back then. He didn't get on the show to make enemies of his friends. He got on to humanize ministry, to show that preachers are flawed, regular people who are simply messengers, not God. The problem wasn't his intention. The problem was the execution, the editing, the narrative control that he gave away to producers who didn't care about his actual mission. Bishop Noel Jones's story is a cautionary tale for anyone thinking about doing reality TV, especially religious leaders. You can have the best intentions in the world. You can genuinely want to make a positive impact. You can believe in your mission with every fibre of your being. But if you don't control the narrative, someone else will, and their version of your story might have nothing to do with your truth. Jones wanted to show his orphanages in Ghana, his scholarships in South Africa, his work feeding thousands. Instead, America saw his Porsche, his Malibu mansion, and his complicated relationship status. That's the regret, not the doing, but the telling. And in the age of reality TV, social media, and constant surveillance, that's a lesson we all need to remember. Because your truth? It only matters if you're the one telling it.